Welcome to Exploring the Paranormal. Hosted by Heather Lee, PhD, Exploring the Paranormal offers a new, fresh look into paranormal research. Join Heather as she discusses some of the many haunted locations worldwide, discusses why these locations are haunted, hear from paranormal researchers about their personal experiences at these locations. Additionally, Heather takes a journey into the science behind the paranormal, discussing topics such as thermodynamics and the Heisenberg principle and how they both affect paranormal activity. Now, your host of Exploring the Paranormal, Dr. Heather Lee.
Good morning, everyone. I am super excited to have you all here today. Today is going to be an absolutely great show. I mean, I say that about every show, but I truly do believe that every show is unique and just as amazing as the last one. We will be taking a shift from your standard ghost and paranormal hauntings, and we will be shifting over to cryptozoology today. I have an amazing guest. Todd will be coming on later on, and he is absolutely, the things he's gone through and the experiences he's had are just, it blew my mind when I read his bio. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting him on later today. He'll be on in about 30 minutes. And just super, super excited to have him here. And hi, Courtney. Thank you for joining us this morning. As always, you guys know, if you have any questions about the paranormal, feel free to ask. If I don't know the answer, you know I'm definitely going to seek it out and try to find that answer for you. And if I don't have the answer, chances are my guest does. And if he doesn't have it, again, we will do everything we can to get the answers for you. Open forum up until he shows up. Again, any topic, if there's anything you guys want to know more about, just let me know. But before we get started, I do want to start off the show by thanking my sponsor, Omni Interactions. It is the company where you can work from home and get your life back. This is a 100% remote company looking for US-based customer service representatives to support Omni's Fortune 500 clients. For more information, I will be talking about them later on, but you can visit my website at heatherleephd.com. It's on the screen there, and go to the Exploring the Paranormal show page, or you can go to getgig.life/paranormal and make sure that when you do go there, you let them know that Dr. Heather Lee sent you. And so real quick, I always like to start my show with a little update about what's going on with me. Of course, you guys know I've been in this field for more than 30 years. And I was talking earlier that Friday, unfortunately, I don't like to share about this, but I'm going to share about it just because it's hard for me. And I don't know why it shouldn't be, but I'm turning 50. So geez, and think about it, that more than half of my life I've been involved in the paranormal in one way or another, whether it's research or, doing what I do now. So definitely interesting when you put it in perspective like that, but not looking forward to turning 50, but I am looking forward to the many more things that I have planned, which brings me to the idea that I had, is that just because you're getting older doesn't mean anything can get in your way or stop you. You can do amazing things no matter what age you are. It's all about mindset and moving on with things. So with that, for those of you who don't know, the things that I do currently do is I'm an author, lecturer. I host this radio show. I also host Ghost Education 101, which I'll talk about in a minute. And also I'm an educator. So I like speaking engagements. I help train paranormal investigators, love being a mentor. So again, like I said, that's why I always love your questions, because I just love sharing what I know with others and helping other, I guess you would say, the next generation of paranormal investigators, regardless of how old you are. But that next group that comes through. As you guys know, Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns and Ghosts and Legends of the Vegas Valley are out. You can get it on Amazon or Arcadia Publishing. But if you guys want an autographed copy, make sure you reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook at Dr. Heather Lee, or Heather Lee Landon is my personal page. You can find me there. And, just let me know. I can send, it's $21.99 and then $25 to cover, and that includes shipping. So just a flat rate of $25. and you'll get an autographed copy from me if you order it directly from me. If not, you can get it. If you live in the Vegas area or Southern Nevada, you can go to your local Walgreens. I know the Mob Museum, Clark County Museum, Psychic Eye bookstores have them. A couple of the metaphysical stores have picked them up. Of course, Barnes and Noble. I'm getting a lot of photos from people going into Barnes and Noble and seeing the book there. And you could also go online, like I had said, to Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you get your local book. If you go to your bookstore, you can have it ordered. I know several people who don't live in Nevada that have gone and gotten it ordered. I've already turned in Haunted Florida Lighthouses, so that will be coming out this fall. They actually emailed me yesterday. September 11th is the official release date for that book, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And we're going to be doing a fun virtual book launch for that one. And then, of course, I have 4 new books that are in the works, and you guys can, I'm actually got a whole bunch of information from, I don't know if she's on here right now, but Lee is on here, or Lee Warner was on here 2 weeks ago, and she shared with me a perfect location for my upcoming book that I'm definitely looking forward to getting to, Haunted Florida Ghost Towns. And then you also have part of the Haunted Florida series. I'm doing one on theme parks, roadside attractions, and Civil War sites. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing all of that. Oh, thank you, Courtney. Yes, you only gain wisdom. Exactly. Oh, sorry, I guess I should just leave, leave my glasses on the whole time, but I don't like the reflection I see off of it. So yes, thank you. Definitely only gaining wisdom. Perfectly. And thank you for joining, Courtney. I truly appreciate you being here this morning. And then just a few more quick updates on things that are happening. Like I had mentioned, Ghost Education 101. It is happening tomorrow night. I'm going to be joined by the Transcend Paranormal. They will be joining me and my co-host Philip to do a presentation on how to host a paranormal event. And they host a lot of events, including their events primarily are to raise money for the historical sites. They do an introduction, they teach a little bit, and then they let everybody go on the investigation, all to raise money to help preserve these historical sites throughout the community. So they're going to be talking and sharing how they do it. So that way, across the country, around the world, we can help all these historical sites survive by doing fun little events for them and raising money. And also, Real Haunts, Ghost Towns and Real Haunts 3 are still available on Prime Video and Tubi. You can watch it on Tubi for free. Those were the documentaries that we had filmed out in Nevada, in Goldfield area. So you can see that. And then I don't know if I mentioned this last week or not, but TMCC is out in Reno, but they offer virtual courses. And they've asked me to teach for them again on September 25th. I'm going to be teaching a course on the ABCs of paranormal research. And on October 9th, it's going to be Ghost Hunting 101. So those are the classes that I have for them coming up. And 9/11 is, yeah, I didn't pick that date, but I thought that when they sent me the date for that, it kind of caught me off guard. But then I was like, oh, that works for me. So hopefully the book launch is really good as well. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about anything I've talked about, even if you're watching the replay and you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to me. You guys know I'm always happy to discuss different things and to chat and catch up. And actually, I almost caught up on emails and messages. So if you guys have messaged me, please be patient. I'm sorry if it's taken me a little while to get back to you guys, but you are on my list and I will definitely getting back to you. The one question I have had, and I need to message him back as soon as I get off here, because he's been waiting for a while, is someone reached out to me a while ago and wanted to know more about where I got my training at. And Institute of Metaphysical and Humanistic Science, or Studies, is out of Clearwater. And Dr. Douglas Kelly is amazing. And his wife also teaches some of the courses through there, but it's all virtual. It's all online. They also teach out of Thomas Francis University, and they have everything from religious courses to, the paranormal science, cryptozoology, and it's just an amazing program, even if it's just to get that extra knowledge to take a class here and there. It's very interesting, and that's someone wanted to know about the paranormal science track that I took, and we actually, it included everything from, not just analyzing EVPs, but going into the science behind how sound travels, how sound gets on these recorders, how we do different things, the laws of thermodynamics, which is in my interview, the Heisenberg principle. All of those things relate to the paranormal. And because he had asked, and I've also had several other people ask in the past, I think in one of the upcoming shows, I tried to get Dr. Kelly on here, but his schedule's too busy. He can't get on, but I might just take one of my shows to talk a little bit more about those, to kind of give an understanding on how the science really does affect the paranormal. And it's, I don't want to say more than metaphysical, but there's more than one aspect to the paranormal. You guys, you have your, spiritual, your religious, your, metaphysical, and then you have that science behind it. They all kind of intertwine, overlap quite a bit. So definitely different things you can do. So, but yeah, if you get a chance, check out IMHS. An amazing program. Like I said, even if you're going to take just one course, I think you have to go through Thomas Francis University, but that's all on the website. And absolutely love Dr. Kelly. He's amazing. If you have questions, you can reach out to him too. He's very open. With him, it does take, I think he has on his website that it could take him up to 72 hours to get back to you, or 48, but it does take him some time, but he does get back to you within that time frame. So, but yeah, definitely. And getting back to that, always keep learning. I saw someone make a post the other day about some of the online schools that paranormal groups are putting together. And of course, you need to be careful to make sure that the paranormal group that's teaching the class knows what they're doing and that you're not getting misinformation. But it doesn't hurt, to pay the small fee for these classes, because it does multiple things. One, you may learn something that you've never knew before. I actually took one on, just out of curiosity to see what it was about, on the introduction to paranormal investigation. And though I knew most of it, it was only a $25 course, but it also had a lot of alternative insights. And it was just really, really interesting. I can't think of what it was off the top of my head, but there were a few things that I did learn, or, opened my eyes to a different way of looking at things. And it also, paying for these smaller level courses, in addition to you continuing your education and opening your mind to the paranormal, you're helping these teams. A lot of, these teams, we go out and we do investigations for free, but we need to buy equipment. We need to pay for gas. And that, having these courses is just another way for paranormal groups to make money to cover these expenses. And as long as you're picking a reputable team to take a class from, then the money's going to a good cause and not just being given to the founder and not going to the team, which, as you guys know, there's always paradrama, and it does happen. So you just kind of never know. And it's not that hard to figure out if you go to, I wish I could remember. Once I find it, I'll send it to you guys on my Facebook page. But if you go to their websites, you should be able to scroll down to see who actually owns the school, especially if it's through Teachable. You can see who owns it. And then just do your research on Facebook, online. You can go to Instagram. I mean, it's one of those, just because they post a lot doesn't always mean they're reputable. You want to make sure, that what they're posting is relevant, is accurate, and, kind of go from there. And to see, not a lot of people will leave positive reviews, but if someone's upset about something, you're definitely going to see those negative reviews out there. But also, again, because no one posts positive reviews, just because there's more negative than positive doesn't mean they're a bad team either. So use your gut, use your internal instincts to figure out what's going on. And again, don't ever stop learning. Okay. And let me see if there was anything else I wanted to talk about. And no, it's kind of a quiet morning, but I do thank you guys all for joining. So I'm going to pull up my notes for something else to see what we can talk about while we sit here and wait. That's what we can touch on real quick. Hold on a second. My notes are pulling up. Okay, while we wait, And this is actually a good topic to talk about before the guest that I have coming on today, is the difference between paranormal tourism and urban exploration. Paranormal tourism is fun. I've participated in it a lot. And these are mostly, you don't have to be a paranormal investigator to enjoy a ghost tour, go to an event like we were talking about earlier. You can kind of, learn about the paranormal, and it's a great way to learn about the paranormal if you're curious, or if you want to become an investigator, but you're not sure if you can handle being an investigator. Going to an event that does an investigation gives you that opportunity to test out the waters, see if this is what you really want to do, and stuff like that. And then you have, on the other hand, urban exploration, which in most cases not legal, because it's when by definition, urban exploration is the going to a location that's abandoned, and 9 times out of 10, you don't have permission to be there, such as an abandoned warehouse, an abandoned school. Trying to think. And, sometimes you can go to these locations because they are not no trespassing. But if it's a building, even if it's abandoned, someone somewhere owns it, and you just need to find that to get permission to be there. Urban exploration also causes a lot of problems, because those are the ones that give paranormal investigators a bad name sometimes, because they go into these abandoned sites. I've actually seen a video where someone walked up to the chain, and on the chain there was this huge sign that said no trespassing. One of the members of the team lifted the chain while the guy with the camera went under it. And then they started investigating in this area that was obviously marked no trespassing. So you want to make sure that you don't trespass. You have permission to be there. A lot of times urban explorers, they put themselves in harm's way. They get hurt because they go into these locations. They don't know if the structure is sound. They're the ones who egg on the ghost. The whole, I don't really want to say come at me, bro, but that's the only thing that comes to mind. They antagonize, they provoke, and they're the ones who end up with the spirits, the negative energies attached to them. And then also, again, it's illegal. If you get caught, you could be arrested, especially if you videotape yourself and put yourself on YouTube and share the video. First of all, urban exploration is not a smart thing to do, but it's also not very smart to share your illegal activity. So one thing, let me scroll through here real quick. Okay. And so basically how they differ from each other is, with tourism, you go on a tour, participate with a group, join in on an event, go to historical sites to visit, whether it's a museum or several historical sites are open throughout the day. Lighthouses, they're open during the daytime. They provide opportunities to learn about the paranormal, and it's a safe, controlled environment. And, oh, hey, Katie, how are you doing? And then you have urban exploration. These are where you go to abandoned locations. It's closed to the public. You don't have permission to be there. Again, they antagonize the spirits. It's illegal and trespassing, and it can also be very hazardous. Okay. And because of that, it's not always recommended, because you have a lot of people sometimes have lack of training. You risk physical attacks, and it's not even just of the dead. You run the risk of being attacked by the living. A lot of these abandoned locations are at risk of the homeless, mischievous people being there. I've heard stories of a lot of locations being drug dens. People who think an abandoned location, squatters, they're now very protective of their location. And then you also have animals. Depending on where you live, you could run into poisonous snakes, poisonous spiders, bears, rabid animals. There's so many different dangers to urban exploration, which is why you want to just kind of make sure you do it in a controlled environment is just basically what I'm saying. Oh, good morning, hanging out. He must be getting big by now, huh, Katie? I'm sorry, I'm like losing my voice all of a sudden. I wonder if that is a sign I am talking too much. No, just kidding. And then, like I had mentioned, paranormal tourism and urban exploration can also harm the field. It's, they give us a bad name or give researchers a bad name. You have those who trespass. And of course, those are the stories you hear about. Or paranormal investigator falls through the floor, gets hurt. That's the story that makes the news. You have when it's urban exploration, I've noticed there's more egos in the way. And ego, that's a whole nother show we'll talk about in the future, egos in the field. But yeah, it's several things can happen. I'm looking real quick. Oh yeah, and I've heard stories of damage and vandalism being caused in urban exploration, removal of objects without permission from a site, conducting investigations in unethical ways. Several conduct dark practices, which can cause problems in the future with them or with the site. And also they participate in other illegal practices such as drug use and underage drinking themselves, in addition to the people who they might run into. So there's so many different things that can happen with that. And again, like I said, find a reputable group that does the tours. I'm trying to think of, I know there's Key West has I wish I could remember the name of it off the top of my head, but remind me or send me a message if you want to know the name, because I have it saved somewhere. But I like their tours. They actually get dressed up in period attire. You get on a cute little trolley, you drive around Key West, and of course they take you to see Robert the Doll. And you learn all about the different things throughout Key West area. They are a very, very good tour. I've heard a lot of good things about them as well. And I haven't heard anything negative about that group. My friend Larry Lawson, the former sheriff's deputy in Indian River County, he owns Indian River Hauntings. And all of his tours are to help the local historical society. Oh, yes, Key West Ghost and Mystery Tours. Thank you, Courtney. So Indian River Hauntings is a good one. I think that's the one that sounds familiar, because I knew it was a longer name than that. I'm trying to think of, and the first ghost tour I've ever done, and it was absolutely my favorite, is the Gettysburg tours. Mark Nesbitt is amazing. And they also have a candlelight tour, which is a lot of fun. Google's my friend too. Yeah, I spend a lot of time with Google during the day. And so yeah, those are, and if you guys know of any tours yourselves that you've been on, I know there's one in Charleston, or there was several years ago. Haven't been to Charleston in a while, but they had a good one. Williamsburg also had a good one. But again, it's been probably 15, 20 years since I've been there. So I'm not 100% sure if, the same groups probably don't even conduct the tours anymore, but who knows? And I'm trying to think. Yeah, those are the most common ones that I've been on in the past, and definitely worth it. And you guys will know. I mean, you'll know if it's a reputable. I mean, most of these groups that do the tours, they've been doing them for a while, and they do it through a location. So like, trying to think, I think there was one in Tampa that did it through a marina. So you booked your tours through the marina, not this ghost team. And then it was almost like they were employees or, contractors, and then the marina paid the group. So it was kind of one of those things. So you have that marina backing them up. Historical societies. I'm trying to think. Okay. And I'm kind of continuing to babble as I lose my voice. But yeah, Chamber of Commerce's. So just kind of do your research and learn more about it. And then I also have notification that my guest has arrived backstage. So real quick, before we go, we're going to take a quick commercial break early. But before we go, when we return, of course, I will be joined by my guest, Todd, for an open discussion about the paranormal and his investigations and his experiences. So make sure you get ready with your questions. But before we go, don't forget to check out my sponsor, Omni Interactions, where you can work from home full or part-time hours that are convenient to your schedule. Working for Omni allows you to create your own schedule in 30-minute or 1-hour blocks. Finally, a company that allows you to get your life back. And like I've said in the past, this is the absolute perfect company for paranormal investigators looking to work and have the time to go investigate and do the research that they need to do. So if you guys have any questions about that, check out my website. You can message me or go to getgig.life/paranormal and make sure you tell them that Dr. Heather Lee sent you. And when we return, I will be introducing my guest, and you guys are going to have an amazing time hearing about his experiences. We'll see you in just a few moments.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.
Good morning, everyone. I think I jumped on that a little bit early. Todd's not quite at his chair yet, so when he gets back, I will be notified. But while we wait for him to get to his chair, because I know I took that a little bit early, I just want to talk a little bit more about introducing him to you. But he is, I love this term, he's a Bigfoot witness turned researcher. He's been active in the paranormal investigating area for more than 29 years. He was born and raised in the Pacific Northwest and grew up hearing about all those legendary creatures, which are alternately known as Bigfoot or Sasquatch, but gave it a little credibility beyond that of a good old-fashioned campfire tale. Of course, you guys, when you go camping, we hear all these campfire tales that were designed to frighten those young campers. All of that changed for Todd in the spring of 1993. He is also this, I cannot wait to learn more about this part. He is the co-founder of the American Primate Conservancy in 2015, which was granted domestic nonprofit corporation by the state of Oregon in October of 2015. Their mission is the discovery, knowledge, research, recognition, and protection of Sasquatch. So definitely cannot wait to learn more about that. And as soon as he is in his chair, we will make sure that we get discussing him. And Katie, this might be, if I see you still hanging around there watching, this might be something that you might want to pass on and let your personal Sasquatch know that this would be a show for him to watch, because I'm always seeing your husband and Kurt posting things about Sasquatch. So yeah, he might be interested in watching the replay on this one. So I'll make sure I get you that link on the replay in case he's not watching right now. So real quick, I guess I want to talk about going into the cryptozoological aspect of this, of the field. Of course, when you think of the paranormal, you have the first thing everyone goes to is, ghosts, spirits, of course, demons. And then you have shadow people, Hat Man, and all of that stuff. But you don't really, I know I think about it because I try to research all aspects of it, but not everybody thinks about the cryptids, cryptozoological, Bigfoot, skunk ape, the Yeti, Chupacabra. I'm like trying to think of all the different things, Mothman. So many different things that are still unexplainable that they do fit in the paranormal world. So it's a lot of fun to kind of broaden your horizons, because the other thing too is a lot of people have different experiences with each different area of the field, that you could possibly think that there's a crossover. I mean, I'm curious to see what Todd has to say about it when he's here. But I know I've had guests on in the past who have thought their theories of Bigfoot is that he goes through a portal, which is why you never feel up ready ready to roll. But finishing that one, I had him on a while ago, and his theory was that, Bigfoot went through a portal, and that's why we didn't see much of him, and that's why it was so scarce. And there's so many different theories, and that is why I am super excited to have Todd on the show today to talk more about his experiences and their theories on what Bigfoot really is. Hello, Todd. How are you doing?
Good morning. How you doing, Heather?
I'm good. Good. So happy you were able to get on the show today. I know it's early out by you.
By far the earliest podcast I think I've done, but glad to be here.
I'm super excited. So we talked a little bit about your experiences, but I want to get more information on what you mean in your biography about witness turned researcher. What experiences caused you to become a Bigfoot researcher?
Well, my baptism into Bigfooting, if you will, began in 1993. Actually, I, as you mentioned, grew up in the Pacific Northwest, but gave little credence to the idea that some species like this could possibly exist. And having been an avid hunter and fisherman, hiker, mountain climber, and whatnot, not having had an experience, it just kind of left me, I don't know, maybe agnostic, if you will, on the whole subject. And then one day, I had a bit of an epiphany, if you will. On April 3rd of 1993, I was a combat engineer in the Oregon Army National Guard. And part of what we do as combat engineers involves the use of a lot of high explosives. And on that particular day, we were in the Oregon Coast Range on some private timberland. And we're given access to 3 different rock quarries, gravel quarries, if you will, where we would practice our trade and various scenarios, combat scenarios, would employ C4 plastic explosives, ammonium nitrate, different explosives for different scenarios. And we had blasted 2 of the 3 sites that we were going to that day, and had just set the fuses on our 3rd and final cratering charge. And so we had about 11 minutes to get out of the area to a safe spot and await the explosion. And then SOP, or standard operating procedure, was to go back and check our work. And so it's just another typical day in the Army. And so we boarded our vehicles. There were 4 vehicles in all, and I was a passenger in the second vehicle, which was a Humvee. I sat behind the driver. And so we take off. We're going down this narrow, winding logging road to get away from the impending explosion. And it was a beautiful day in April in the Coast Range, clear blue skies. And so I had the window open and my arm hanging out, and I'm just, again, being a hunter, it was just natural for me to, scour the countryside as we went along, looking for elk or deer or whatever. And well, I got the whatever. We came around a corner where the second quarry, the one we had detonated a large amount of C4 at, perhaps an hour earlier, it came into view. And what struck me were these 3 very dark, very large beings, if you will, standing right out in the open in this quarry. And the first thought that came to my head is, oh my gosh, what are those people doing down there? Because as you can imagine, we had a pretty good quarantine on the area, keeping civilians out just due to the explosive and the danger of what we were doing. But I hardly got that thought out of my head when I realized what I was looking at weren't people at all. And by that, I mean, first off, their silhouettes were not human at all. The arms and legs were just disproportionately longer than that of a human. Sure, they were standing on two legs, but the arms reached all the way down to the knees. The legs were also disproportionately long, like I said. They were jet black, no clothing, discernible clothing, and just huge. They were, of the three, I would say the one in the middle was certainly taller than the two on either side. Now, these three subjects were facing our convoy. They were obviously observing us as we were descending this hill across the ravine from them, and the one in the middle. The one in the middle didn't move much. It stood there like a statue. I estimated it to be close to 9 feet in height, and very broad at the shoulders. I mean, these things were built like bodybuilders, all three of them, just broad shoulders, no real discernible neck. The trapezius would come almost from the bottom of the earlobe straight out to the shoulders. Barrel-chested, tapered waist. The two either side of the larger one, though, were moving. In fact, they were shifting weight. They were swaying back and forth, if you will. They were shifting weight from one foot to the other and swaying, and these long pendulous arms were swaying back and forth in front of their knees. And they did that the entire time I watched them. And time-wise, this wasn't a very brief sighting. In fact, I watched them for nearly 25 seconds, which may not sound very long, but I mean, look at your watch for 25 seconds. Especially considering what I was observing, it just seemed like an eternity. And anyway, after 25 seconds or so, we rounded the corner, and I lost sight of them and just kind of slumped back in my seat and tried to wrap my head around what I just observed. And we continued on down to the safe staging area, and which wasn't too far away. And so when we came to a halt, I instinctively jumped out of the Humvee and started jogging back up in the direction we had just come from, in hopes of being able to get another viewing of them. And unfortunately, our standard operating procedure prohibited anybody from being out of sight of the main group, just because of the danger of what we're doing. I went as far as I dared, and I stood on my tiptoes, trying to look over this dirt berm that was blocking my view. And I just could not get a bearing on that quarry. And about that time, somebody calls out my name, and I look to my right, and here came Sergeant Martin, who obviously had been watching me, and he said, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "No, nothing." And he proceeded to come right up to me and looked me right in the eyes, and he says, "I don't suppose you saw what I saw down at that second blast site." And at this point, I thought I was the only one that had seen it. So I said, "I don't know, Jeff. What did you see?" And he looked to his left and right, and made sure nobody was within earshot, and he said, "I saw 3 huge, dark Bigfoot, I guess." And at that, of course, I said, "Yeah, I saw them too." So that was kind of neat to know that somebody else had experienced what I had. I didn't need that corroboration, but certainly it was nice to know somebody else had that experience, and that I can't unsee what I saw that day, and it's just amazing to me how 25 seconds of my entire adult life at that time, at the age of 34, 25 seconds completely changed the course of my future. And so I should add that I mentioned I was in the National Guard at the time. Now, I finished out my service in the active duty Army, but being National Guard, traditional guardsmen, we drill or train 1 weekend of the month, and then a couple weeks in the summer. And so our next drill would have been early May, and so that following month, that following drill, we had 2 more soldiers come forward, and both of them admitted to witnessing what Jeff and I had seen. So it's kind of a, when it comes to these sort of encounters, it's kind of unique in the fact that multiple animal sightings are fairly rare. Multiple eyewitnesses are rare, and just obviously the coupled with the activity that we were doing, we were literally out there blowing up the forest, and so those 3 things combined make it a rather unusual sighting. But I have been spending the last, in about a week it'll be 30 years. I have spent 30 years researching and looking for evidence, and it's been a long, crazy journey, but I've found it very very exciting and enjoyable, and so that's my story. That's how I got involved, and been doing it ever since.
And it's amazing how time flies when you're doing something you really enjoy doing.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, and I know you had mentioned that seeing multiple at one time is odd and strange, because I was going to ask you that, because aren't most sightings just one?
Generally, yes. Yeah. I'd say probably 95% of the sightings are a single animal, and generally fairly brief in comparison to what I had seen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, the only thing that came to my mind was a family, possibly, that you might have seen.
Well, that comes up. People ask, do you think it was a family unit? I honestly, it's speculation, but when you consider the situation, this very well could have been some scouts, if you will, that obviously they were literally standing in the very spot where we had just detonated about 300 pounds of plastic explosives. I mean, we're talking about putting up a mushroom cloud, maybe 2,000, 2,500 feet in the air, and creating a small earthquake, if you will. Mm-hmm. And it's people point out, well, why would they return to the scene of the crime, if you will? Because, and it's a great question, because any other animal that I can think of, whether it's a deer or a cougar or bear or elk or what have you, is probably to go in the opposite direction, and avoid that area for some time, especially due to the fact that we were detonating one of these explosives about every hour or 2 apart. So it was interesting that these things, these creatures, this species, would steel themselves enough courage to come back right into the blast zone. Now, obviously, people wouldn't even do that, right? Mm-hmm. But that tells me that they were very inquisitive, and that curiosity, to me, especially curiosity to the degree that will overcome what you think would be a natural fear,
Hmm.
tells me that they must be intelligence, because curiosity, the need to know, if you will, is something that only intelligent uh, creatures exhibit, especially, like I say, to the extent that you're willing to take certain risks to find out. So they could have very well just been sent out to investigate. Uh, Whether it was a family unit, I don't know. My gut tells me that it wasn't. Uh, but again, it's just speculation.
Right. Yeah. Because that was the first thing that came to mind when you said one was taller than the others.
Yeah,
So
but the other two were easily 7 feet
okay.
tall. So I'm saying the two that flanked that larger one came up to about the shoulders of the biggest
Okay.
of the three.
Okay. Yeah. I would say more scouting, and maybe they were just making sure you guys weren't getting close to their home.
Yeah, we were rocking their world for sure.
Have you had any other experiences besides that one? I mean, I'm sure you have. Otherwise, you wouldn't keep doing this.
Well, yeah, and many many different types of experiences. You know, encounters come in different flavors, if you will. Some of them are visual. Well, the ultimate, I would say, are visual encounters. Some are vocalizations, of which I've heard many, and vocalizations, by that I mean sounds and volume and of such that you cannot apply it to any known species. I have heard things on numerous occasions during my investigations. Encounters also can come by the way of just evidence, or a lot of people talk about tree knocks, for instance, and I've heard that activity as well. Not sure what it means, but to me, I'm guessing that a tree knock is some sort of uh, benign way for them to alert others of their species that the humans are in the area, which I find funny because so many people think that that's the thing to do, is to go out and knock on trees. It's like, hey, we're here, you know. So it may be counterproductive, but that again, that's just speculation on my part. Um, Most recently, um, I had a very amazing uh, field investigation about a year and a half ago, where I was invited by some tribal members of the Omaha Indian Reservation to come out to their reservation. Uh, Neiss is the local village there, and they're right on the border of Iowa, there along the Mississippi. Excuse me, the Missouri River. And I had heard of a particular phenomenon that I really had difficulty explaining or wrapping my head around. And if it were anecdotal or, you know, onesie twosie kind of observation, I would probably write it off. But I've heard it way too many times, and that phenomena involves the what they call eye shine. Whenever I hear of some sort of, and you mentioned earlier the alleged going through portals and being transdimensional, if you will. Those kinds of things I had put in the paranormal or supernatural category. And for me, I'm not a scientist, but I tend to base my um, explanations on standard biological explanations, I guess. And so shoot me. It's only my second cup, so bear with me.
You have a couple more to catch up to me.
Yeah. Excuse me. Anyway, I had seen actually some video of it, and so I was curious, and so I just had to go out and see for myself. So I got out there on a Saturday late and spent Sunday with the tribe, and then Monday night, my host said, "I'm going to take you out to this area." Now, mind you, this is during the height of the COVID pandemic, so the actual town of Neiss was in lockdown. It was basically quarantined from, I think, from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock. You weren't supposed to leave, and they actually had guards coming in and out of the reservation. And but my host happened to have a little bit of clout with in the tribal council, and so we were able to go out. And we would go out around midnight. The only reason I bring up COVID is because where we went was very remote, very thick rolling hills, heavily timbered and hardwood trees. And we would go out at midnight, and we'd be out from like midnight until 2:30 in the morning. You know, don't get me wrong, but I'm skeptical about this whole anomaly. So first thing my mind goes to is, I hope I'm not getting hoaxed here. But again, because the fact that everybody else was locked down in the town of Neiss, I made that a pretty rare situation. So anyway, we get out there to this one area, a small 2-lane road in the middle of the countryside, and no other vehicles out this time of night. We park, we walk across this road, and we're looking into pitch black darkness. I mean, you can't even see the hand in front of your face, right? No lights, nothing. And my friend calls out in his native Omaha language. He calls out into the darkness. He says, "Oho, Kage." And nothing. And he says it again, and all of a sudden here, I'm seeing what looks like a pair of glowing eyes. And by that I mean I can't explain it. I'm just, again, I can't unsee it either. I'm watching this, and you can see them blink. They would change color a little bit, depending on if they were looking directly at you or if they were averting their attention perhaps toward my friend. They would turn a little bit more orangish red, but when they were fixed directly on you, they were white and fairly bright. And so that night we had as many as 3 separate individuals simultaneously, 3 sets of eyes out there in the darkness. And I'm just blown away. And if it was just the eye shine itself, that'd be one thing, but there was also these vocalizations that were just absolutely amazing. In fact, that first night we went out, and we went out 5 successive nights in a row, Monday through Friday. Sometimes I wouldn't get to bed till 3 in the morning. But anyway, that first night we were there, we weren't there for 5 minutes when this one, I assume was a female, and I say that because it was extremely high pitch, very loud. Basically, I know it sounds crazy, but basically sang a song, if you will, and by that, she would call out this melody, if you will, for 5 or 6 seconds, right? Very loud. And it would change in notes, it would change in volume and pitch and rhythm. all in like 6 seconds. Okay, then there'd be like a 10-second break, and she'd do it all over again. Right, exactly the same chorus, if you will, or verse. And this went on for about a minute, and she did this about 4 times within a minute. Again, about 6 seconds, 5 or 6 seconds long, but repeated the exact same thing. So anytime I hear vocalizations like that are repetitious, that tells me these aren't just arbitrary sounds. There's a meaning. And if you ask me, I thought it was very welcoming. It wasn't scary at all. It was beautiful, in fact. And it would be 3 days later that in broad daylight in the same location that I would hear her do it again. But she only did it one time. But again, it was exactly the way she had done it 3 days earlier. But we went out 5 nights in a row in 2 different locations, and every night we had these encounters. And it was just absolutely mind-blowing. I can't wait to get back out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's a good thing it was calming, because I don't know if I saw these glowing eyes coming at me, what exactly I would do, being in pitch darkness.
Well, it's funny that you should say that, because, he would say, again, Ho'okage, which means hello, friend.
Mm-hmm.
And at times he would say gigaho, which means come closer. And in fact, in some cases, they actually did.
Mm-hmm.
There was just some amazing encounters. We had one time where I think it was on a Wednesday night. We had activity, but it wasn't as active as it had been the previous couple nights. And he said, now he had converted to Mormonism, actually. He was a Latter-day Saint and very devout. And so he said, I'm going to try something. I haven't done this in a while, but I've done it a few times, and sometimes I get a reaction. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I'm going to pray with them. Sometimes I get a response. And so, excuse me. And so I go, okay, whatever. So again, imagine we're standing on this roadside in pitch blackness, and we had seen a little bit of activity again, but not as much. And so we bow our heads, and he starts praying. He prayed for about, before this, he called out to them again. He said, Hokage, I'm going to pray to our Creator, and I'm going to ask for His blessing on you and your family, for your happiness and health, and your peace. And if you want to join me, Gigaho, come closer and join me. So we bow our heads, and he starts going into this prayer, which lasted maybe 3 minutes. So we got about 90 seconds into this prayer, about halfway through the prayer, at very close range, now maybe 60 feet away, this one starts whooping, very loud. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Did it 4 times. And it's everything I could do not to look up. I'm just like, oh my goodness. Because they had been standing back 100 to 150 feet away, but now this one came up close and was getting a little crazy. And I was like, as soon as he said, oh man, I'm like, was that what I thought it was? Yeah, I told you, sometimes they react to that. Another time we went out to a different location, and this is kind of funny. This was on a Thursday night, and I realized I only had one more night, and this was happening fairly consistently. So to the point where I dare say I could go back there tonight and experience it with pretty good odds. And and bear in mind, my host had established a relationship with this group, if you will, for the better part of 3 years. So they obviously knew him. So we go to this second location on a Thursday night, and again, he middle of nowhere, pitch black. He calls out, and sure enough, straight down this road. I say road because we pulled onto this logging road, so I knew the car was pointed down the road. But once we turned off all the lights, I couldn't even see the road. But I could tell this pair of eyes that was probably 100 and estimated maybe 150 feet away, but again, fairly bright eyes straight down the road. And then we caught another one at our 3 o'clock trying to flank around behind us. But I was fixated on this one down the road, and I'm getting, at this point, I'm like, dang it, I've got one more night. We gotta, step this up a notch. So I turned to my friend. I said, hey, you've obviously established a relationship with these, obviously if they wanted to hurt you, they would have by now. And so obviously they want to communicate or what have you. They communicate with you. So have you ever thought about just walking up to them? And his eyes got really big, and he's like, no. And I said, hold my beer. I don't know what got into me, but I said, do not follow me. And I turned and slowly started walking toward this pair of eyes, and not even knowing that what was coming, whether they would stand their ground or come at me or what have you. And I got closer and closer, and I got within maybe 40 feet of them. And I think what's going through my mind at this point is, if I get any closer and this thing stands its ground, I'm just gonna take a seat on the ground and let it make the next move. And but I got about 40 feet from it before it actually turned and walked off. But my Indian friend still to this day talks about that crazy white guy that tried to walk up on a Bigfoot. So, but that was an amazing thing. And so because of that, Heather, I had to face the fact that what I considered paranormal or supernatural, well, I was wrong. And so I looked into some of these other things, again, because of the amount of witness reports of things like we talk about, this fading in and out of vision and what have you, that I have, in my latter years of research, decided to kind of step on that third rail of Bigfooting, and that is to place myself between the scientific and the paranormal, and to see if there's some way that I can bridge that gap. And by that I mean, can I find a way to scientifically explain what other people are observing? Yes, I believe you saw something, and you're not alone. And this is, you observed what looked like something came from out of nowhere and then vanished into nothing. Can we explain that? Is there any examples, for instance, in known wildlife of that happening? And that's kind of my starting point. Yeah, I believe you saw what you saw. Now, I may take exception with your rationale of what it was, but let's see if we can't meet in the middle and make sense of it. So I want to take the paranormal and try to make it normal. I want to take the supernatural and make it natural. And let's face it, a lot of things that we know today used to be in that category, and it's just that we can't explain it. And so that's kind of my quest right now, is to try to find ways to explain things, and so that we can try to understand these species better.
Yeah, it sounds like my goal. My ultimate goal in the actual parent, like the ghost side of it, is to make it no longer a pseudoscience. I still cringe when I hear that term.
Yeah, right. But I mean, there's got to be an explanation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep, exactly. And one thing I just want to bring up real quick is my son. He does investigating with me, and his theory on Sasquatch and Bigfoot is that they're ghosts of cavemen. Was a theory that he's thrown out there, because, and I found that at least more or less interesting, because his mind thought that way.
Well, maybe they are relic hominids, which is something that I've come
Mm-hmm.
to believe, and that is that maybe they are relic cavemen. You know, we look at the Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon, and we tend to think that, okay, they're gone. Well, a lot of different species that we thought were extinct are being found, and a lot of species we never knew exist are being found. You look at the species they found on the island of Flores, a small species of humans, 3 to 4 foot high at maturity, and they thought they were quite old, and now they've found, as they found more and more of Homo florensis, as it's known, or the Hobbit, I think is the nickname they give it. They're finding they really not that old, like 15, 20,000 years in the blink of an eye. So is it possible that some sort of, and maybe not precisely Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon, but some sort of hybrid perhaps still exists?
Mm-hmm.
And survives in the wilds? You know, I don't know about where you're from, but I can tell you, here in the Pacific Northwest, there's a very, very large area that is just uninhabited. I myself live in the Cascade Mountain Range, in the Mount Hood National Forest.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when I fly out of Portland to go anywhere, and you fly over the Cascades, it just goes as far as you can see from Northern California right into Canada. And I live in a very rural area up here, maybe just around me 500 or 600 people. But you don't have to step too far off the road to get lost, you know, or to be in wilderness. There's a lot of territory out there, and we have yet to find everything that's out there.
Yeah, I mean, being in Florida, we have a lot of swampland and marshy areas, and we have the skunk ape, or at least reports of the skunk ape.
Yeah, I've actually done some investigation out there, some field work in the green swamp, with a group out there that I was affiliated with. I've researched Alaska, Canada, and all up and down the West Coast, a little bit in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, even Arizona. If you get into northern Arizona, it's very mountainous and forested. But a lot of there's so much that we don't know, which, you know, the fact that mainstream science doesn't really want to entertain it is good to me at this point, because it gives us citizen scientists, if you will, the opportunity to do our own work, and it's exciting to know that there's still some things that are out there that yet to be discovered.
Exactly. And that actually brings me to one of my next questions, is you had co-founded the American Primate Conservancy?
Yeah, in 2015, I founded the American Primate Conservancy with a main goal of, ever since I had my initial encounter, I found myself asking, okay, why? Why me? There must be a purpose. And I found that purpose in not only looking for them, but over time, wondering about the health of the species. I know a lot of people will say, they don't need our help, leave them alone, they're doing fine. The worst thing you can do is try to, find them. You know, you're a PhD. You can't, I just like, based on what? Can you tell me how many exist today? No, you can't. Can you tell me how many existed 100 years or 10,000 years ago? No, you can't. And then without that data, we can't really wrap our arms around the health of the species. And my goal is I want to make sure that if there's anything I can do, it's to make sure that my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, as rare as it may be, will have the same opportunity that I have to see them. And I would be remiss if I didn't try to do something in that regard. So I started the Conservancy. Our mission statement is the discovery, research, knowledge, recognition, and protection of this species. And the discovery, research, and knowledge is ongoing. The tough hurdle is that recognition. Mm-hmm. Without official scientific recognition, it's going to be very difficult to get protections enacted. I can't see what it would hurt to get something out there to at least make it to where people realize that if they are to harm or kill one of these things, that the damage may be irreversible. Extinction is not the last of a species dying. There's functional, technical extinction when the numbers get below a few hundred that inbreeding takes place, and they're basically due to genetic defect, and so we've had to learn that the hard way over time. And we've got, if you look up extinction, there's a laundry list of dozens and dozens of species that we have photographs of that are no longer here. Mm-hmm. And it's sad. And I couldn't live with myself if I didn't do something in that regard. Now, I know a few people have tried to get laws enacted with the Department of the Interior, which obviously runs the Forest Service and Fish and Wildlife and whatnot, and to no avail. They're obviously their whole thing is, well, you can't even prove they exist. Why should we, bother? So I've kind of found a back door, if you will, to try to make that happen, and that is working with Native American tribes, especially those that are on reservations. Mm-hmm. Because if you look across the country, there are literally over 100 reservations, which technically are independent nations within our nation. And they have their own autonomy. They can make their own laws with regards to fish and wildlife and really anything they want. So, and whereas we've lived with these things for perhaps, when I say we, I mean, Western society, Europeans, maybe 300 years, these Native Americans have lived symbiotically with these things for, over 20,000 years. Mm-hmm. So who knows better than they as to the existence of these things? And without exception, every tribe has a name for these things. Mm-hmm. Whether it's Satonga or the Sonoqua, the Quas, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Oma. The list goes on. And so I have been working with a number of tribes put together what I call the Indigenous Peoples Bigfoot Protection Act, just basically a draft that they can kind of plug and play their own tribal name into it and their own whatever they call it. In the case of the Omahas, it's the Omaha Nation, Omaha Peoples Satonga Protection Act.
Mhm.
They call them over there Satonga. And my hope is that if these tribes get on board, that they're going to realize a couple of advantages. Not only that they're going to be able to protect that of which they are well aware of, but it also will bolster their culture,
Mhm.
their traditions, and their feelings towards these things. They view them as an ancient tribe. In fact, they call them the old ones or the first ones.
Mhm.
And in other words, they were here before even we were here, kind of thing. And so they revere them and respect them and treat them as another tribe. And so my hope is that this will catch on like wildfire, and other tribes across North America, both the U.S. and Canada, will get on board, and then we can go to the Department of Interior and say, hey, look around you. This is already well established
Mhm.
within all these tribes, and that at least will make it a little more palatable for them to put something into an actual law to protect them. So that's kind of the projects I'm working on.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people that I've talked to, they fear Bigfoot, and it's it's until there's something proven. I haven't seen or heard of any cases where Bigfoot's actually attacked.
Well, that's not entirely true. There are some um, tales of them being aggressive, but I mean, just look what happened yesterday. Humans are just as violent as anything on this planet. Um, uh, People tend to stereotype this species, and I dare say they are as individual as you and I. Any animal under certain circumstances can be dangerous, and certainly given their brute strength and size, uh, yeah, they can be pretty intimidating. But overall, most encounters end with these things. Once they realize they've been uh, spotted, they turn and walk off. In fact, I'd say the vast majority of sightings aren't people watching Bigfoot, but quite the other way around. People realizing that they're being watched. I think they're very curious of us. I think they find us as fascinating as we do them.
Mhm.
But by and large, it's people finding out that they're the ones that are being watched. But you mentioned violent. Like I said, there are good people, there are bad people, and even good people can have a bad day. Or you might find like one of these with offspring in the area where they might want to get protective, or they might be uh, eating a kill of some sort, and so uh, a dang rabbit can be vicious if need be, depending on trying to protect its young. So again, it just depends on the circumstances. But in 1924, uh, Mount St. Helens had, I don't know if you've heard about Ape Canyon and what happened in that area, but there were some gold miners that were prospecting, uh, again on the eastern flank of Mount St. Helens, and they'd been up there, I think, 3 years by this time, and they had built a small cabin near their claim. And they were aware that these things were around. In fact, even before they went up there, the natives warned them not to. But they saw the tracks, and occasionally they would spot one kind of following them. For whatever reason, this one day, Fred Beck and Smith, the gentleman he was with, saw one across the canyon and shot it 3 times. It took off after being hit 3 times, and they said it didn't seem to be too phased by it, but that night their cabin got attacked by about 5 or 6 of these creatures. They bombarded that cabin for hours. And they got out of there, but they swore never to go back again. They've been known. The natives talk about them kidnapping women and children sometimes. In that same year, 1924, a gentleman by the name of Albert Osmond up in British Columbia was hunting, and he was in his sleeping bag at his camp one night when he got picked up and carried off for miles by one of these things, and spent several days amongst the family of these things before he escaped. Again, any creature can be dangerous, but for the most part, these things, and again, I'm not trying to stereotype by any means. I'm just saying, for the most part, they seem fairly benign and curious about us. And again, just based on their capabilities and their size and strength, if they wanted to harm us, they certainly could. But that doesn't seem to be. That's an exception rather than the norm.
And then one thing I was just thinking of as you were talking is there any fear or concern that, like, let's say either the government or a scientist gets a hold of a Bigfoot, of what could be done?
Well, I'm not a big conspiratorialist, and I'll tell you, these things are observed fairly frequently by common citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And unless you believe that there's a government agent, a Bigfoot squad that's hiding under every rock and behind every tree, the prospect of the government getting their hands on one or taking one out of the hands of a civilian is pretty rare. I really don't think they have a lot of interest in it. It is what it is. They are what they are, and it's so I think when that ultimate evidence comes forward, that in the form of DNA, some sort of tissue sample, or hopefully that of some one of these things that is expired from natural causes, old age, disease, or injury, or something, that it's going to come out. It's going to be made public before the government can really do anything to act on it. They don't have that sort of control of that situation at that time. I've heard all kinds of people. Oh well, when they find out though, they're going to come and get it. I don't. Good luck. So.
Yeah, there's always that fear in our world.
Well, it's like, if it were me and it was a carcass, I would probably, they've got 2 hands, 2 feet, I would separate those and stash them in different locations. Yeah, they might get one. They're not going to get them all. I'm going to make sure that you get something really I have a contingency as far as getting it in front of scientists and a particular university specifically to have that research done. In fact, one of the most prominent genetic labs in the United States, if not the world, are basically on standby, willing to step up and do some analysis should that time come. So.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also in your bio, you had mentioned you host an annual event. I
Ah,
know it said it was invite only, but I'm kind of curious as to what you guys do.
so over the years, I've been privileged to speak around the country at different conferences and podcasts and uh, some documentaries and whatnot that I worked on and currently working on. And I've met a lot of people over the years, as you can imagine. And I think it's 2008. I just sat back and thought, too bad all these independent researchers couldn't collaborate, could be brought together. What would it be like to get all of these people I've met, researchers in the same room at the same time? What a brain trust really of research and data. And I thought about it, and I thought, what would be better than that is to get these researchers together for several days, get them around in an outdoor setting around a bonfire with an adult beverage in their hands and make them really get to know each other on a personal level, because I saw a lot of jealousy and competition amongst different groups and individuals, and this is just a waste of time. Is there some way I can, get that, kumbaya moment with these people? And so in 2008, I came up with this concept. I wanted to put together a gathering of researchers, but nothing like what I had experienced at any other conferences. Um, don't make it open to the public. Make it private. Make it invitation only. Invite only researchers, no vendors, no audience, no, in being nonprofit, not to really make any money off the thing, just to make it a very casual uh, gathering, a retreat, if you will, for Bigfoot researchers. And I kind of facetiously named it Beachfoot, because we would hold this thing on the Oregon coast. And the name kind of stuck, and this year will be our 16th annual gathering of Bigfoot researchers, really from all over the world. We've had researchers not just from the United States and Canada, but as far away as Australia, England, Russia, New Zealand, fly in on their own dime to get together for this gathering, and it's all about networking and sharing theories and techniques. And, it's really taken on a life of its own, and it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like that would be really interesting, and it's such a unique idea, because you don't hear about, like you had said, there's so many egos and people competing against each other, that being able to sit down and just talk and get to know one another is such a great idea.
And it's actually turned out to be exactly what I hoped it would be. I know the late Dr. John Bindernagel started coming, wildlife biologist, PhD out of British Columbia, if you don't know, and he was blown away. He said, I didn't come for years because I thought the name was so corny. I didn't think it was a serious gathering. But once he started coming, he said, I couldn't believe it. That we don't have any distractions from, just general public being there, and it's just researchers. And he said, I walked away with over 30 pages of notes and a whole list of new contacts and eyewitness encounters, so pretty much everybody who's anybody in Bigfoot has been there at one time or another. I do have a Facebook page dedicated to Bigfoot, named Bigfoot, here, and it's if your audience wants to go there, I would encourage them to do that and just look at the photo gallery of in there, and there's just some. You'll see an amazing array, a gallery of a lot of researchers, and you can just tell by looking at the pictures. We have a blast when we're there. I enjoy the bonfires myself. We'll get like 5 or 6 volunteer speakers. These people generally get paid to speak at different conferences around the country, which includes their transportation and lodging and all that. And here they're paying to come there and their own transportation and volunteering to talk because they're talking amongst their own constituents. And anyway, it's just been a great concept that's caught on, and we're looking forward to doing it. I think it'll be the last week. It's 4 days, 3 nights, 4 days, and these people are camping out, literally camping in tents or hammocks, or in some cases they bring RVs. But we've got a 10-acre private campground that we lease every year, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's very productive in terms of research.
Cool. Definitely. I'll share that link on Facebook so everyone can find it in case they're having trouble finding it as well. And real quick before I let you go, you had mentioned in your bio that you have a contract for a project coming up. Are you able to share details on that or not?
I can say that I have signed a non-disclosure agreement. So, but I can say that I have been selected to be part of a cast member on a upcoming, yet to be named TV series involving Bigfoot, obviously, and hope to start filming here in the next month or so. It's got some. They're basically chopping it to different networks, and I think they've got a couple big names already on board. I don't know how many platforms they'll be on, but anyway, can't say a whole lot more than that. Just stay tuned. I would like to plug one documentary that we just finished this last year called A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed. You can get that on Amazon Prime or a number of different platforms. It's turned out to be the #1 most downloaded documentary this year. It's really taken off. Yeah, we're really proud of it. I spent about 1.5 years working with the producer and director on that. And there's a TV series that just came out called Expedition. Hang on a minute. It's Mission Unexplained. They flew me out to New York to film an episode of that. It's out in Canada. It came out this month in Canada, and I believe it'll be coming out in the U.S. on April 28th or so. So I'll be looking for that Mission Unexplained. So I'm interested to see how that's turned out. But yeah, but A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed has just become a really big hit, and I've worked probably about 30 different TV shows and documentaries, and by far I think that's really the best one.
Cool. And I'll get that list of TV shows up in case anyone wants to catch any of the older episodes or anything like that to see you in action, I guess is what I'm looking for. But before going, just let everybody know where they can find you or your organization.
Yeah, the Conservancy actually has a website. It's AmericanPrimate.org. I have a Facebook page, like I said. It's American Primate Conservancy Facebook page, and my personal Facebook page is my name itself. My email address, if they want to write, it's AmericanPrimate@AOL.com. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me there. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much. I had such a great time, and I'm so glad you reached out to be on the show. It's definitely nice to have a change besides just your typical ghosts that we've been covering a lot lately.
Well,
And
had fun, Heather, and thank you for having me. And I'm going to go get my third cup of coffee.
yeah, and definitely I'll have you on again. And for those of you watching, make sure you stay tuned. I'll be right back after this commercial break.
Want to see your video here? Sponsor WLTK-DB Talk Radio and watch us make that happen. With your paid sponsorship of $80, you receive a professional produced audio, video, and banner placement on our station. Not only does your sponsorship air during our live shows, but also replayed on our podcast and heard by hundreds of like-minded people. Visit WLTK-DB.com to get started and find out just how hard we work to get you noticed.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Wasn't Todd amazing? Absolutely loved listening to his stories. And it definitely gave me a new perspective on Bigfoot. You always think of, you hear the mainstream of, like I was talking about, the portals, or like my son saying it was a ghost. But definitely love hearing those stories. It puts more of a, I guess you would say, humanistic characteristic to Bigfoot, which is definitely interesting. I would love to have experienced it, but I'm not. Even though I'll crawl through mines and go exploring in the woods for ghosts, I never really thought of camping out. You guys are going to laugh, but my idea of roughing it in the wilderness is staying at a Holiday Inn instead of a Ritz-Carlton. I've been saying that since I was young. So yeah, I'm not a big camper, but I will do the exploring during the day and, at the twilight hours, but I've never really thought of doing it at night. And it would just been interesting to have experienced what he's experienced, and truly do appreciate everybody who was watching. I will make sure I have his bio with his website, Facebook pages, and also all the different shows that he's been in, and including I think I have a link to his documentary as well that he was talking about that I can get up there so you guys can make sure. I should be doing that later today, hopefully. When I put the replay up for this, I'll make sure to include that in the replay link as well. So if you guys, again, we still have some time. We have about 25-ish minutes. If you guys have any questions, feel free. Kenneth, if you're still on, I saw you pop on and say good morning while Todd was talking. Again, thank you, Courtney, for watching. Katie, I'm assuming you might have dropped off, but I know I'm going to definitely be getting you this link because I'm sure Kurt would have enjoyed that discussion. And for those of you who don't know, my friend Katie, I've known her for years. Her and her husband own a store in Wisconsin called Sasquatches, and it's a really cute. I've seen the photos of the store. It's a really cute store. So that's why I think her husband would absolutely love. So that's why I keep saying that. And I'm just trying to think of a few things. I had a few things that I wanted to say. This will teach me not to write them down while we're doing it. But, that's what I wanted to ask him. I'm going to have to send him a message because I know he does that private event, but I'm wondering if they do any public events where they take people who are curious about Sasquatch. But I don't know how that would work safety-wise because I don't know. The wilderness is not a very controlled environment. But I think that would kind of be fun to go and tag along with to see what it would be like. And now that he's off he's off, I have so many more questions I need to ask him. So I'll make sure I message him and definitely when I get those answers, I will get back to you guys. Again, I'm looking through my notes for the show. If anyone has any questions, you know how to reach me. At Exploring the Paranormal Show on Facebook is the best way to see updates for the show. It also has links for my sponsor, which I'll talk about again in a minute. I do have an event coming in July. I just got some of the details yesterday, not all of them, but I'll know more soon that I will be attending. I know have an event in October. Haven't made the official announcement, but I'll be hopefully announcing that soon once I get everything finalized for that. And then, of course, next year's already starting to book up as well. And don't forget the 2 classes I'm teaching with TMCC. The ABCs of Paranormal Research, just to kind of give you guys an idea of that one. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm taking each letter of the alphabet, ABCs, and coming up with 3 to 5 things to discuss about each letter. For example, and it would be more in depth. It's not just like A equals apparition, B equals Bigfoot, C equals chupacabra. It would be more or less each letter. I would go into like extensive details. So let's say D for dowsing rods. I would go into and I would demonstrate how to use the dowsing rods, what they're used for, the history of the dowsing rods, and all of that stuff. It is let me just check. It's a 3-hour course. I'm not sure what the prices are. They should be in their catalog. I want to say last year they got in the catalog in June or July. And as soon as that gets released, I'll definitely be sharing that so everyone can register for it. And the way I do it is I will record it while we're live doing the class. And those of you who have registered for the class will get a copy of it. So that way you can go back for future reference. And then the same thing with Ghost Hunting 101. That's just going to go into your basics. It's going back to the basics. And that's one thing that we always forget. We're so wrapped up in the technology, in the latest and greatest. Like Todd had mentioned when I was talking to him, even in the Bigfoot field, who knew? Egos. We need to let all of that go and go back to the basics. Go back to using our instincts, your basic digital voice recorder, even a reel-to-reel tape. I know some people who use those still. Dowsing rods, of course, and getting away from kind of almost like I don't want to say forgetting everything that we know today, but just going back to when investigating was simpler. And then it's going to also continue up through today with some of the more popular tools and kind of go into a discussion on different ways to conduct an investigation. And I'm still in the process of doing that. So if anyone has any ideas to help with subjects for those courses, let me know. 3 hours is definitely a lot of time to fill up. I know I did a course last year on Southern Nevada ghost towns, and the 3-hour course ended up being like an hour and 45 minutes. Nobody had any questions. And you guys know me, I talk fast sometimes. So sometimes a reminder in the comments, slow down, Heather, is greatly appreciated. But I did talk a little fast during that when I went back and watched the recording. So that one kind of did go by a little quicker than I had expected. So yeah, just let me know if you guys have any ideas for those. If there's anything you want to learn, let me know. I'm also putting together other classes and presentations that I'm going to be doing across the country soon. So actually, I can pull up a list of some of the classes or presentations that I've been asked to do real quick. Of course, the one that I started talking about today, paranormal tourism versus urban exploration, is one of them. Hosting paranormal events. Of course, you have my ghost town talks. How to be an ethical investigator, documenting the paranormal. When ghosts attack. This one's going to be a fun one. It's talking about all different experiences that I've had where ghosts have actually physically and psychically attacked. My favorite one that I love doing is non-tech paranormal equipment and investigation techniques. I've been asked to teach several classes on my herbal magic. I have When Ghost Hunters Get Scared, Herbal Magic and the Paranormal. Of course, you have my lighthouses, photo analysis training, and then protection against the paranormal. So those are all different classes that I've been asked to teach and presentations that I'll be doing. Some I am going to be putting up on my YouTube channel. I'm going to pre-record it, not in as depth as I do in my classes, but there will be some of that information available to give not only a preview of what to expect, but also to get, valuable information out to everybody, the basic information out there. And, you guys know me, I pretty much share everything anyway. So chances are everything will be eventually put up on my YouTube channel for you guys to get the information and to watch more. So stay tuned to my paranormal show for that. And also real quick, I know earlier I had talked about Ghost Education 101 airing tomorrow night. I just got a message. I need to talk to them. We may be postponing the show two to 3 weeks. So I will definitely let you guys know that one. If you want to know more on that, you could also go to Ghost Education 101 on Facebook to see when that has been changed and what is happening. And I am so looking forward to next week real quick. Actually, let me pull up everyone that is going to be on it. Next week, it's almost like a panel discussion. I'm going to be having members from Georgia Paranormal Investigations joining me. And I know Stephanie Elgady is going to be one of them. And she is amazing when it comes to EVP analysis. So make sure you have your EVP questions for her. We also have Kelly. I think it's Kelly Ladd who will be on. She has been investigating the paranormal for more than 30 years. And then, hold on, I'm scrolling through Facebook. And Michelle she is a psychic medium. She started at the age of 5. Her gift runs through her family. And then also Stephanie, who has been a part of the paranormal field for years, is amazing. I've worked with her on other cases, as well as several other different projects. I have talked to her. She's been on Ghost Ed several times. And absolutely, all 3 of them are amazing. And I cannot wait for you guys to get to know them better and have fun. So real quick, I'm going to start wrapping up, going over the closing of the show. And if you guys, again, if you have any questions, reach out to me at Dr. Heather Lee on Facebook. You can also find at Exploring the Paranormal Show. You can also find me on WLTK-DB Radio's Facebook page. Keep a close eye out. I will be sharing the replay and all of the information about Todd and how you can find him later today. If you want to get your copy of Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns or Ghosts and Legends of the Vegas Valley, you can always reach out to me as well. I have autographed copies here that I can send. I think I only have 2 of the Vegas one left, but I have plenty of the Ghost Town ones left. And then also stay tuned. Haunted Florida Lighthouses will be out September 11th. And that is it as far as that. And real quick before we go, earlier I chatted a bit about my show sponsor, Omni Interactions. I definitely want to thank them for being a part of the show. Make sure you take time today to learn more about their self-scheduling opportunities, which are perfect for the life of a paranormal researcher. You can learn more at getgig.life/paranormal. And like I had said, make sure you tell them that Dr. Heather Lee sent you. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a fabulous week and an even better weekend. I will see you on the other side next week after, as I age past 50. And we will see what life has to bring for me after that. So again, thank you guys. I will see you guys next week at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. You guys all have a fabulous week.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.